This is Dr. Kavita Singh, Associate Professor in Department of Civil Engineering in Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So today we are going to discuss a topic on surface water mapping and inventory. So in the previous lecture, if you remember, we have discussed about the land use and land cover of water source, how land use, land cover will affect the water resource, how it is affecting the water resource, what are the impacts of land use and land cover in water resource. Now in this lecture today, we will be learning about surface water mapping and inventory. So how the surface water mapping and inventory is helpful in mapping the surface water and different water quality and quantity of the surface. So let us start with this lecture today. So what is surface water mapping and inventory, that we have to understand first. So surface water bodies are essential for water storage units and play an important role in the efficient tapping of huge water quantities from the rainfall and runoff events. So what is a surface water? When you talk about surface water, what does it mean? Surface water means the water which is present on the surface. Okay. So there are two type of water. One is surface water. The other one is groundwater. Okay. Surface water and groundwater. So what is surface water? So surface water is created by through runoff or through the precipitation, which is from the hydrological cycle. The precipitation occurs, and through runoff it goes to the mainstream. When you talk about a watershed region, to a mainstream where the water is totally collected and it is just contributed from the all different types, different places, and the total water storage will be there in the mainstream, like rivers or reservoir or any pond or lake. So this type of water we call it as surface water. Now what is groundwater here? So groundwater, the water which is not present on the surface water, that is the surface, the water which seeps inside the ground. Like some places you find the soil like sandy soil, loamy soil, which will help the water to seep inside the ground. So this water will be seep inside the ground and it goes to under the ground and it becomes a groundwater. So that groundwater flows through the aquifer and it will just provide the water from the groundwater. Through pumping of this groundwater, we can use this water as a groundwater. So these two both are the fresh water, and the groundwater and surface water quantity nowadays. If you see the groundwater and the surface water problem, what we are facing here is we have a total amount of water present on the earth's surface. What is the condition of the water, if we understand? So we have 97% of the water of the whole world, it is present. So 97% is covered with the water body. Okay, water body. But still we are facing the problem. Why we are facing the problem? Out of 97%, this 97% of the water, what we are is there, it is out of 100%, 97% of the water is seawater. Okay, seawater or ocean water. So this 97% of the water which is waste for using, we cannot use this. This all are surface water, sea water, ocean water, we call it as a surface water. It is available like 97% of the water, it is available much in the quantity, but here the problem here is this water we cannot use. Why we cannot use? Because this is totally saline in condition. So this type of water we cannot use. So out of 97%, 1% of the water also we cannot use. So how much left is? We have only 3% of the water. Okay, so 3% of the water what we have here is, let us understand here. So 3% of the water what we have here is, this is the fresh water. Okay, fresh water. Now in the fresh water, out of 3%, 2.5% it is totally frozen. Okay, totally frozen, right? This is a fresh water, but out of this 2.5% is totally frozen. Now how much we left? We are left with a 0.5%. Okay, so 0.5% we have as a surface water, and we have as a groundwater. Okay, we have a surface water, and we have as a groundwater. Now, out of this 0.5%, we have surface water and groundwater. So this 50% we have surface water, 50% we have groundwater. So this much condition, that's the reason we are facing the problem, like 0.5% out of 100%, 0.5% of the water which is available as a fresh water available on the surface and under the ground. So if you talk about 0.5%, so 50% out of 0.5%, we have 50% here as surface water, and 50% we have as groundwater. So here we are ready to use. Surface water is only ready to use, okay, ready to use. Now, ready to use in this 0.5%, that to 50% of 0.5%. If we are ready to use also this water, 0.25%. So if you are ready to use this 0.25%, that means this water, if you are ready to use, it should be clean, and the quality of the water should be good. But nowadays, what is happening due to this urbanization process, due to this pollution, the water qualities keep on decreasing. So even though if it is ready to use, we are not able to use it. That is the problem we are facing with the water problem. We have the water, we have the water, groundwater, but it is in very low quantity. That too, the water is contaminated with the pollution and with the urbanization process. So this is the condition of the water. Now here, surface water mapping and inventory, we have to just find out which are the areas which is covered with the surface water, and you have to do the mapping of that areas to find out how much water is present for the use, ready to use. So, efficient tapping huge water quantities from rainfall and runoff. For irrigated agriculture in India, water is drawn from the surface water bodies. Like as I said, surface water which is ready to use. So for irrigation, a lot of water is required. So here from irrigation, we can say out of 100%, 70% of the water is required for the irrigation now. So irrigation activities are taking place more in such areas where the water problem is more. The irrigation activities are keeps on decreasing. So we need more of the much of the water for the irrigation purpose. When the water presence is less, then, due to this pollution activities, due to this urbanization activities, the water problem we are facing in the agriculture purpose also. Because once the water is contaminated with fertilizers and all, and we are using the same water for the agriculture purpose, the entire crop will be spoiled. So, such a major medium reservoirs, all irrigation tanks, river reaches where the lifting of water is possible, and etc. So, huge infrastructure establishments were created in India for creation of irrigation facilities. So, lot of establishments, lot of infrastructures is created, like irrigation tank is created, embankments are created, dams are created for irrigation purpose, because we as the requirement is increasing, as the rainfall is decreasing, due to that the water problems are keep on happening in the such regions. So for that, infrastructure developmental creations is done for the irrigation facilities. But there is a continuous development and increase in number of large dams. So large dams from 3600 in 1991 to 382 large dams are also under construction. So from 1999, if you see 3600 dams, and again 382 large dams are already under construction in that year. So you can just imagine in the present condition how many dams will be added to this. So because of this water problem activities, these dams are constructed in such areas. In addition, there are huge number of smaller irrigation tanks, water bodies, and also many are under the construction apart from the above number of major reservoirs in the country. So many under the construction, they are from the above number of major reservoirs from the country. Mapping and monitoring of the surface water bodies is necessary, as they are dynamic in nature. As we say that the water body is dynamic in nature, every time the water will change, every time the water condition will change. So the mapping of these water bodies are necessary, and which are dynamic in nature. Sometimes the water availability is less, sometimes the water condition is more. So if mapping and monitoring it is done, so present condition it will keep. So in the year, if you say in the first year this is the condition, if the water problem is more, in the second year what is the problem, if keeps on monitoring is going on, that means we are able to go with the watershed management, and we are able to do the conservation of water. So that's why it helps us to surface water mapping helps us to find out the present condition and the we can just assume the future. We can say is we can just assume the future predictions that what it will be the condition of the water here. The utilization of satellite images for inventory mapping and monitoring. So utilization of the satellite images of inventory mapping and monitoring. So surface water body would lead to the assessment of inter and intra-seasonal well and annual surface. So surface water which will lead us to the assessment in inter and intra-seasonals as well as in annual surface. The utilization of satellite images for the inventory and mapping and monitoring is very much helpful to find out the surface water body, and it will help us to assess the inter-seasonal as well as annual surface water problems. Okay, surface water, how much water is sprayed, dynamics, vice versa, progress of the cropping areas and irrigating agricultures and water utilization purposes. So this all we are going to utilize, and this all we are going to use for the purpose in the surface water mapping in the inventory. Now, spatial temporal information. Spatial temporal information on the surface water body, brief overview of the existing scenario of open satellite data. Now, spatial temporal. What is spatial temporal? What is spatial temporal? This is the resolutions. If you remember, we have four types of resolution in remote sensing. One is spatial, spectral, and radiometric, temporal. So we have this types of what do you say resolutions. In this, we have one type of resolution called as spatial and temporal. So which will give you the spatial information as well as it will show you the temporal. Temporal means changes time to time. What are the changes which are going to occur in such areas? It will show us the changes time to time, which will give us information of the surface water bodies, which will give us a brief overview of the existing scenario. What is happening and the popular satellite data interpretation will also help us to know about the water condition, image processing, classification, methods for extraction of surface water body will also help us in the mapping of the surface water mapping and inventory, which will need for the development and the automated imaging processing and methods for extraction of surface water body from satellite images and etc. So basically here spatio-temporal images will be very much helpful to find out the main condition of the water, what is the present scenario, what is the future scenario, that all scenarios it will help us to just get to know about our information here. So this is what it will be helpful for us in this spatio-temporal information. So here methods of extraction of surface water bodies from the satellite images will be happening. Now, possibilities for use of automated methods for quick processing of satellite images. So, possibilities for the use of automated methods. So, what are the different possibilities for using the automated methods for quick processing of satellite images? So, different possibilities of the use of automated methods or processing of the images here is different possibilities of automated methods, we use the satellite images, temporal images to find out the quick processing of the satellite images, and further the opportunities for the surface water are dissemination. So different opportunities it will help us to show the surface water and dissemination of the areas. So in near real time through web services is discussed along with the demonstrated results. So in the real time through the web services it is discussed about the demonstrated results, what are the results which is happening in such areas, and it will give us the proper automated methods are used. It will give us the surface water mapping and inventory images. With the help of that we can just find out the proper information of such areas. Now, automated techniques for the delineation of the surface water bodies. So we have different automated techniques which can be used for the delineation of the surface water bodies. So the increasing number of satellites, sensors available at present and provides data at the higher spatial temporal resolution. So wherever you see this spatial temporal resolution will help us to find out the main what do you say changes in the water, as the water is dynamic in nature. So one place the condition may be, if you see in a season the water body will be less. Same area if you take after 2 months or 3 months in the rainy season, you can see the area surface water is totally increased. So if you do the mapping of that area's continuous changes, we can just monitor and we can come to a conclusion that we can just go with the, whether the conservation of the water resource is required or not. So this will help us in the with the help of the spatial temporal resolutions and better receptivity. Okay, so improved computational infrastructure for handling huge satellite data sets in an Indian. So improved of the computational infrastructures like handling. We have to improve the computational infrastructure. So more and more number of data handling computers which can store many much of the data, which can give you the proper data information, that kind of infrastructure to be developed and data sets to be enabled. So the development of quick image processing techniques which will facilitating analysis of multi-data satellite data and in near real time to derive the dynamic thematic information. So surface water here, if you go with the spatial temporal resolution, it will give you the real time information wherever you find the dynamic thematic information which is dynamic in nature. It will help us to derive the dynamic information out of that mapping whatever we have done of the surface water. So here surface water spread is highly dynamic in nature and varies with rainfall. So it varies with the rainfall we see. Wherever the rainfall occurs, the pattern and the storage and capacity in the reservoir it changes. So wherever the rainfall occurs, there if you map that such areas, you will find that a lot of in some season the water will be less, in some season the water will overflow, that will lead to the floods also in such areas, and the pattern and the storage capacity of the reservoir tanks etc of the regions and water utilization also will be decreased in such areas. So based on the surface water which is dynamically changing due to the rainfall occurring and the utilization purpose or urbanization practices, it is keep on changing in the different regions of the water resource. So this is how, if you do the surface water mapping, it will be helpful to give a conclusion, it will be helpful to give an analysis that such areas are totally affected with water quantity or less water table, groundwater table is less, or the surface water table is less. If the surface water table is less, if the surface water is less, obviously the groundwater table goes down. So this is how the surface water mapping and inventory we can do with the help of this uh, mapping purpose of from the spatial temporal images. From the satellite, spatial temporal images will be giving us the clear picture about the water dynamic nature. Okay, so in the summer season, if you see the surface water, it will be totally dried up. In the rainy season, if you see the surface water, it is totally filled up. And again, in the winter season, if you see the water quantity will be medium, not average in quantity. So if you see many years data, continuous data for past 2 years, 3 years, if this is the situation, if the mapping is done, if this is the situation, that means if the water quantity is going down, then we can plan for the conservation of the water or the watershed practices can be implemented in such areas. Okay, so this is about the surface water mapping and inventory. So these are the references which you can go through to find out the more content about it. Like a Manji Reddy book, you can just go through to find out the more about the surface water inventory and mapping. And just you can go through this link to find out the more content about this surface water mapping. So that's all for today. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.